will call this meeting of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee meeting to order at 4:06 and on February 27th, and we'll do a round of introductions. I'll start. I'm George Tolumsis. I'm the planning board representative to this committee, and I'm the committee vice chair, and I facilitate the meetings at the behest of the chair.
John Garrett, City Council Representative. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. This will be my last meeting with you guys.
I'm Hannah Rex-Shoppin. I'm chair and member at large.
I'm Francoise At, member of the public.
Nancy Hazard, member of the public.
Jonah?
Jonah Keene, member at large.
Amy Kaling, director of community and economic development, planning department appointee.
Thank you, everyone. So next agenda item is the approval of the January minutes.
So move.
Second.
Discussion.
Awesome.
They look cool up.
You know, it said that I abstained, which I didn't think I missed a meeting there. And I don't remember abstaining. So I don't know if I just I have brain fog going on here, but
Oh, about the minutes, you mean?
yeah, on the minutes it said that I abstained because I hadn't been at the previous meeting, but I thought I had been. So anyway, that's very it's insignificant.
Okay. I had one template related thing. I just wanted to suggest that when we list those present committee members, we list their affiliations that are not related to being here in parentheses. So for example, Hanny, it just says Greenfield Business Association, which would imply you're a representative from that association, but it should say public member and then parentheses. I mean, I think it's good to have that there because it's, qualification you have.
Great.
And then there was one little typo on bottom of page 2. This second bullet from the bottom, it's safe routes to schools. And I mentioned that because it's a federal program. So I want to get the title.
Got it.
And the other thing is the top of the next page, second bullet, Marlowe update committee at our next meeting on FRTA related projects. Does that sound right? That surprised me. I had just been talking about the FRTA, but
I don't know. I don't remember what he said specifically.
It might have been the main. Now that you mention it,
That would make sense.
yeah, that's what I think. It jumped out at me now that you say that.
Maybe FRTA bus stops are involved with the Main Street redesign.
Yeah, something like that.
I just didn't know.
I can edit it to Main Street, or I could just edit it to say Marlo offered to update.
Marlo said
at our next
something.
meeting. Marlo said something. It's sort of a generic update, and then we'll find out tonight.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
He doesn't stand us up.
So,
out tonight because.
I think he's coming.
Okay.
I hope he's coming.
so with those
You're like,
edits, all in favor of the minutes, passing.
Aye.
Thank you, Jonah. Unanimous. And Carol, introduction.
I'm introducing myself.
Yeah,
We
we've
did
been
it
around,
before.
so you're-
Okay, I'm Carol, and I'm the Energy and Sustainability Director.
Okay, and Graham is going to be joining us a bit later, so we could do the introduction then, I guess, right? He's on one of the agenda. Okay, thank you. So next item is the SGIC focus for 2025. We have 10 minutes allotted for that. And continuing the conversation, including invitees to future meetings.
Yeah. Is that me, this section, Mary?
There's nobody listed as a lead, so I assume so.
I'll start. This question of sort of our focus and relevance for me continues to be very much about being informed and then also connecting outward to opportunities and projects and ideas So I would love to reboot our guest speaker series as part of meetings. If not every meeting, maybe just when someone arises that we'd love to hear from. And so we could do some ideation, I think, around either topics and or organizations and or specific people that we could try and invite to future meetings. And I just wanted to capture some names and then I can kind of get rolling on invitations to people.
And we did a bit of that in the last meeting. It's in the minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a whole list of people that we were thinking about.
Is there any prioritization or anything that people specifically would like to hear from first? Or not there? Free rein. Okay. Excellent.
Well, we had talked about hoping for a cog. I know that was one.
Yes.
And FRTA, Michael Thoreau from FRTA was another one, which
Yep.
Feels like a priority.
that particularly if we do sort of downtown economic development stuff, that might be an interesting one. You're better connected to that than everybody else, but.
Yeah, so it would be hard for me to say if that's a prioritization. I mean, I think he's great. I think, public transportation is essential, but as is the master plan. But I don't know how much of a priority it is to happen as compared to other things.
And is there anything, as far as focal points for this year, I know we've talked a lot about economic development. Is there anything else that we want to discuss or we want to be aware of as a focal point for this year, just so that it's kind of teed up early? And yeah.
So this is tangentially related to the focus of this committee per se, but last month at EDC, when you were there and Amy was there, it was spectacular to have you in that room. And so, in the future, again, I'm not going to be on this committee, and so I don't want to volunteer anyone for anything that I'm not going to be part of. But having members of SGIC going to people and places where decisions are made would be really helpful.
Okay.
Like, honestly, if there was a standing invitation from EDC to have you two there, I would be thrilled about it.
There is now, which is great.
Perfect. Yeah, because Derek, and so that's like having this committee making things get implemented, right, is the goal.
Yeah.
So if we have people from here out other places, then that's more likely that the people that actually have the decision-making power are going to do them. So yeah, like I'm thrilled to hear there's a standing invitation. That's awesome.
Yeah.
A standing invitation for
It's so
EDC.
interesting that when I was there, I didn't even think about SGIC, which is terrible, but I feel like I have to confess it because my head had my like economic development hat on, and I wish I had though,
Yeah,
because
cite the master
I
plan.
love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
That's
is a good
great
idea because
point.
it's not in the, and this is a good idea, it's in the master plan. This is a terrible idea because it spits in the face of the master plan.
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Maybe not that dramatic of language.
No, but I think.
Yes. I have my own. I know, I'm a little dramatic.
I think it can be helpful to talk to, like, as I'm talking about whatever that my department is working on, to get in the habit of like
Yeah.
throwing in a sentence that is
Yeah.
like da 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 da, as we talked about in the master plan.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It makes it more real for people, because otherwise then you're not
Yeah.
gonna think about it,
Yes. That's a great point, John. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you say EDC meeting?
Yeah, so these guys are at EDC and it was awesome because they're experts and
Right,
there was a need for expertise. So it was very helpful to have you two there.
Yeah.
good.
It was very interesting.
It was, I like the discussion about downtown beautification. It was kind of
Yeah.
like, it rambled to get there, but I liked that it got there.
Beautification is not rambling in its way.
It is, it's super important though. It's
Yeah.
placemaking. It's not something that is often focused on. So I was glad to hear that.
Great. Okay.
Yes.
Kind of related to that, I can't find it. This is how my days go. It's like 100 miles an hour. But I downloaded two specific resources, really great ones related to, man, not even gonna get it right, am I? But it's basically like making our downtown so that they're resilient and kind of playing into this whole beautification. I mean, all these things can work together, but like you were saying, you weren't thinking of SGIC. And even though it might be part of it, we think of things kind of linear, you know what the word is, in a line and instead of kind of encompassing everything. So one of them was a list, and I think it was either from Smart Growth America, might have been the CNU, which is Congress for New Urbanism. That's the problem with being on too many listservs. But I get really good information and it's overwhelming. But it's great, you know, to be like, okay, this is it. To me, it spoke of like when we were talking about updating the economic development chapter, like it kind of fits in. So that's stuff that gets me jazzed. It solves many, many, many problems, and that would be something I would be excited about.
If you found the resources, would you share?
Yeah, I could find them.
So following or
You
questions.
can't ask me too much because I
No,
didn't even look at them, but
okay, so you found two things that were exciting.
Mhm.
And I guess my question is, this goes back to, I don't know, months and months ago, the idea of bringing some speaker to Greenfield that could be helpful in just getting different perspectives
Mhm.
on stuff. And I don't know, might you?
it's a lot of work. We've already tried it. Phil and I tried it. He was supposed, you know, it was a lot of work to really not gain any traction.
Mm,
So it typically costs money. It typically costs a fair amount of money. That's not the game we are usually playing. So maybe we can get a sponsor or something like that to bring in. I just saw Michael Mann speak on Friday. He's amazing.
mhm,
Climate expert, Nobel Prize winning IPCC member.
mhm.
And fun fact, he was the character that the science Leo DiCaprio in Don't Look Up
Oh, wow.
was based on him. So
That's a depressing movie.
oh yeah, it is. But anyway, he was brought in by the Mass Teachers Association.
Right.
He's
yeah.
from Amherst though, so I think that
I was
has.
busy, so I couldn't go, but
Yeah.
did they film it?
Yeah.
They, I don't think they did.
Yeah.
But you can find other speeches online that
I've
cover
been
some of
online
that.
looking for it, yeah,
That's, yeah.
anyway.
I know that, sorry, can I go?
Please.
I know that Northampton's, Strong Towns Northampton is trying to bring Jeff Speck, who wrote the Bikeable City or
Walkable Cities.
Walkable Cities, thank
Great
you.
book, yes.
And there is a cost involved. I suggested that they want to bring him because they're having a lot of backlash on their Main Street
Oh, yeah.
redesign, but they don't have the funding to do it, so they were trying to make it a more regional thing. So I suggested they reach out to like FERCog and maybe UMass and whatever.
Mm,
So if they pull that together, that could be
mm.
something.
We could advertise it, sure, yeah.
See Jack Speck, JEFF.
They had Chuck Maroon come out too.
Yeah.
I think it was on my birthday and I had no idea but I was busy, but.
Was that the guy? He was on a tour.
He's Strong Towns. Say
Yeah,
again?
I
yeah.
saw.
Oh, yeah, he was in Orange.
I had no idea, and I was like, I would have.
He was out like on the circuit. He spoke at the, that conference, the, planners conference too,
Oh.
in Worcester.
Oh, that's coming up.
Springfield.
The 15th.
Yeah.
Citizen plan.
Citizen planner, I saw that at Holy
Training.
Cross. Yep.
Not, he spoke at what different one, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Strong Towns is the business kind of minded organization, right? Talking about how sprawl is a bad economic investment. Is that them?
They are.
He does have a, yeah.
Incremental planning, multimodal
Okay.
forms of transportation,
That's okay.
You know,
But he's got great ideas
Yeah.
and, you know, it's good to, not to interrupt, but just.
Sorry, I did. That's it.
so we're near the end of time for this item. I do want to, as I reflect on it more, I think the idea of having Michael Prawl here would be good.
Mm.
I've been so, tied into this. I mean, before I moved out here in 2002, I had collected all the FRTA bus schedules. So I'd figure out how it commute from Greenfield to Northampton via bus.
And it's
for work.
not easy,
And-
right?
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
Okay.
But well, that's the thing though. I'm so deeply into it. Some things are easy,
Mhm.
some things are virtually impossible. But I think for everybody to have a firsthand experience of it, and there's been some major changes with the access program that
Yeah.
was started by this and has been copied across the state by transit authorities. So he would be good, I think. to
Yeah,
have as a-
okay.
As a guest, just to
Okay, all right.
connect everybody else here with that essential element,
Yeah,
because it's one of those things that it's not a city department. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a public utility, but it's independent from,
yeah.
city, so.
Well, and they just got a very large state grant, and so I know they're looking for a lot of input.
I got input.
Yeah.
That's our special.
So it's timely in
Great.
some ways too.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, last one.
We're out of time, or can I
Essentially.
say one more thing? No, maybe I shouldn't do this, but the other thing that jumped out at me as I was looking at this is the FERCog people. Is there something that we could learn from them about resources and programs and things that we should know about that we don't know about? I used to go to their planning meeting and I've had a conflict. I haven't done it for a year or two. So, and I don't know, I know Jessica Atwood. I do not know Ted Harvey.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's the economic development planner guy.
He's
No.
great.
Anyway,
He is great.
maybe keep that in the background as a,
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank
So
you all.
the next item is the master plan, potential update of economic development chapter update from Amy. Before we get to that, that's for 15 minutes. Does someone want to reach out to Marlo just to find out?
Oh, yeah.
Because he used to in 15 minutes.
Yes.
Present.
Oh,
Do you have his
that's it.
number? Because I
Yeah.
can text him. Okay.
Okay, Amy, you are up. This is your conversation with UMass and potential funding sources and timeline.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll need 15 minutes, but maybe 5. Good. I have no funding as of yet.
So,
I am trying to solve for that still. If anybody has some spare funding, let me know.
I got plenty.
A couple of things though that I think I can update from last time. So our department was hoping to do an economic development strategic plan, which this update of this master chapter would serve as for us.
Oh.
We have also been separately talking to the Deerfield Street neighborhood precinct 7 folks about doing a Deerfield Street corridor plan as well. And what the team at UMass said was that they could combine both of them, that they could do an update of the economic development chapter and then have sort of a special focus side thing over here on the Deerfield Street corridor, so that we could get 2 for less money than 1. They gave me a very informal quote just to get me in the ballpark of both combined $20,000 to $30,000, but it fluctuates depending on what iteration of, they offer a range of types of programs. So I am trying to solve for that funding. Carol.
Sorry. I missed, you said 2, what are the 2 things?
Updating the economic development chapter of the master plan and then a Deerfield Street corridor plan.
Oh, that's not a bad price tag.
I didn't think it was bad for the 2 of them, and I love the notion of working with UMass, and I have another thing, but Nancy.
yeah, I have a question about the Deerfield Street corridor because didn't the city do one maybe 3 years ago? Very
They did
recently?
one not that recently. It was like 20.
Probably 5 years ago now. Was it?
It was a
The one
while
that
ago.
they did with the
Um,
grad school,
But
right?
nothing was, yeah, with the grass.
They did it with the same folks at UMass, yeah.
Right.
And
And there was no, as far as I know,
Just
nothing
kinda-
came out of it. I mean, no actions came out of it.
no actions came out of it that I'm aware of either. I, to be totally honest with you, didn't even know it existed until I went searching in my email under Deerfield Street and up it's.
Oh,
Well, I guess my question is, since it was done not so long ago, is there a need to redo that, or is it more?
There is, from my perspective, for
Okay.
a couple different reasons.
Yep.
That plan was very focused on sort of the river and Deerfield Street, and it didn't go very much further beyond that. We now have a very engaged precinct 7, and I think a growing business community that's not only on Deerfield Street, but down River and Mill,
Okay.
plus a far more active fairgrounds. And so my hope is that I'm calling it a corridor plan because that's what came out of my mouth, but I'm thinking of it as I guess, a neighborhood plan that would focus not only on that corridor, but also on the river and the community that's bounded by the fairgrounds, Mill Street and Deerfield. So I think the scope is different, and there is simultaneously the Connecticut River Conservancy, and I think the city, maybe you know more about this than I do, are applying for a grant to look at the river and to look at improvements I don't know much about the grants.
Do we move-
On improvements along that corridor.
You mean to remove the dam or something else?
In connection with removing the dam, yes. And so there's a thought that this could dovetail also into some of that work. So this feels like it might be a good time to do the two of them. John?
I remember hearing about some sort of South Greenfield, so-called South Greenfield plan.
This is it.
This is it.
This
Okay.
is, so people were referring to it as South Deerfield. Different iterations of people have talked about it from different aspects. Some
Right.
folks wanted really to focus on housing.
Right.
Some people were focused on sort of a complete streets. Look at that stretch of Deerfield Street. Some folks on Mill and River wanted to look at Mill and River Street. So I'm trying to do a neighborhood plan that would involve community engagement and talk about all of those things,
Fabulous.
which is very different than what the prior Deerfield Street corridor plan did.
I also remember seeing a study a while ago. There was a climate resilience study that like talked about how Deerfield Street is in danger of being like destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
Catastrophic flooding.
Yes.
The hazard mitigation plan, probably, I was on that.
Is that
Yeah.
what it was? And then I remember it specifically because my street, which is Hope, is like up the hill. And it's like,
Yeah.
this place is safe. That place is
Yeah.
not. I'm like,
And they just talk about the
So not-
floodplains in that old Deerfield.
Sorry, people on Deerfield Street. That's it.
Well, that's why you want to live at the top of the hill, not the bottom.
Yeah.
And someday I'm gonna make it, I'm always at the bottom. Make it to the top.
Is your house
Or
in
get washed
danger
away.
of flooding?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry
like
to hear
this, yeah.
that.
But anyway, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just gonna say, I can also split them up, and if it turns out that I can only find enough funding to cover updating this chapter
Mhm.
or to cover whatever, I would split them up, but I love the notion of trying to do both of them at the same time with all the same people. The other thing I wanted to mention, just to put a pin in your calendars, they know that we do not have funding and they know that this may not happen. However, the department at UMass partners, the model that they would like to use is faculty and students from UMass, and then a couple of experts who come in from outside. They're doing a similar planning process in Southern New Hampshire right now. And it happens that these folks, it's Aaron Simmons, Senior Director of Design Assistance, and Joel Mills, Senior Director of Communities by Design from the AIA Architects Foundation, are working with the New Hampshire community and would also love to work with us should we find funding. And they're going to be in town on April 3rd because they're meeting with UMass and on their way to New Hampshire. So they have carved out the afternoon and said if folks are interested and would want to meet with them, that they will be around. And they
For
would love
free to come and talk?
for free to come and talk.
Yeah.
So we would get a chance to meet them. They would love to see Greenfield, meet us, talk a little bit more about what we're looking for, because they'll be in the area anyway.
And these again are the consultants to the UMass folks, is that what you said?
Yes, I guess this UMass department partners frequently with
So they'd likely
these
be,
people.
if we get this done, they would partner as well.
They would also
So,
partner.
okay.
Yes, so our contract would be with UMass, but UMass and one of their models pulls in these outside experts, and these are the team that they frequently pull in. Nancy.
Let me just ask, and then I'll call on your next. What time are we talking about?
It's a little up in the air. It is between 12 and 5. They have a Zoom that ends at 11:15, I believe, over in Amherst. So I said when we get a little bit closer, just to save me from having to change the time with all of you 4 times if their schedule shifts a little, but the afternoon
So after lunch.
after lunch. Yeah.
That's it.
And their hope was to come meet with folks and then walk around or tour around a bit if there's specific things that we want them to
Yep.
see.
I'm curious about what role Wayne Fiden would play in this.
He would be the lead because he's the director of the Landscape and Architecture
Right.
Design Center
He
for
would be
Resilient
the
Communities.
lead being the organizer, kind of,
Yes,
not
he
the
would-
expert.
He would be the coordinator
Coordinator
for all of
of
this. He would coordinate the
Okay,
students, he
got it.
would pull in whatever faculty
Thank you.
he needed, he would coordinate these folks.
So is he at UMass now or?
He is at UMass, yeah. So I reached out to 3 different people at UMass, all in landscape and architecture, because that was the department that had done the prior Deerfield Street study.
So you've done everything but get the funding. So
I just need the funding. And the other thing, so I was concerned about procurement also. They have indicated they know that we are a city and have no budget. But also UMass, which I didn't realize, is because it is a state entity, it is exempt from procurement.
Oh, whoa.
But I think design services anyway, or there's definitely.
I was very
engineering.
excited. I learned that tidbit. Don't come.
Yeah, okay.
I don't-
I think one way or another, I'm not worried about that part of it. And we could always
You know.
carve it up into two.
We could. But I just, yeah, I would love to have that Greenfield UMass partnership.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
these are folks that have already done Deerfield Street corridor study and so.
Can I just say, as someone who continually gets my hopes that still somehow get excited over things get dashed when I see the architects and the stuff that I would love to work with good architects. I think that's invaluable if we're going to be designing things. Oh, please.
Yeah,
Please.
Yes.
agreed. We can vet when they come out.
I want to hear if you have any ideas or leads for money.
I have one and I don't want to out this
Okay,
entity
fine.
publicly because I don't know if they'll be interested.
Okay.
My way back up, but it would throw off our timeline is, there are planning grants through the Massachusetts One Stop. That cycle is open now for letters of interest. But applications aren't due until June, and by the time everything gets under contract and whatever, we'd be looking at frankly next year or late this year. If I will apply for that if I haven't found funding, and we will do something else in the interim, but
Does Athena help with things like that?
yes,
Okay.
This
Athena.
Athena.
I was just wondering if any funding source would not start until next year anyway. You have some that don't.
I have one
Because-
that would not require that amount of logistics. It's just a question of whether they would be interested.
Stupid question, but you don't think it's likely the mayor would appropriate that money out of, free cash or something?
I do not think so.
I don't think so either.
There's no money to,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yep.
you just gave me an idea.
Good.
So,
Either you're
I'll follow
welcome
up
or
with
I'm
you.
sorry, depending.
no. I'm gonna check out a few things. And I did find one of the things I saved. Can I? Are we out of time?
Well, let me first, do we hear from?
Yeah,
Uh,
so,
Marla?
Marla responded to my text and said, sorry, I need a few minutes.
Oh, so
And
he'll
I
be
said,
coming.
no worries, we'll see you when we see you. Use the link on the city calendar, and he did not say anything else. So I assume that he is popping on.
Soon. Okay, go, Carol. Thank you.
Not to take things in a different tangent, but if we were to focus more through the resiliency climate lens, I believe I could access some funding that way. And so one of the sources I have is climate and land use planning. A lot of it is, again, it's just a different lens of things we've already
Can I
done.
ask a stupid question?
Yeah.
Isn't the Sustainable Greenfield Master Plan looking at all of this through a resilience and climate lens?
Resilience wasn't really on the radar that much, as
Well,
much 10
we
years
were
ago.
using
That
the
whole
word
field is just-
sustainable, which as far as I.
It was
can
sustainable.
Encompasses
If you want to
resilient.
send me a link, I can
Sure.
see what kind of language I can spin.
Anything is wordable.
And resiliency should be our top priority right now.
Absolutely.
Well, certainly,
Especially from
resilience
an-
has been in the, certain parts of this, with the infrastructure stuff,
Yep,
that's referenced a lot.
it is,
So,
it is.
yeah.
But it has definitely risen as.
It's yeah. I mean, it used to be called low impact development. Now it's nature-based solutions. It's become a whole different field. And I mean, it's phenomenal things that are happening, but obviously, as you all know, we need as much as we can get.
Mhm. Well, pending Marlowe's arrival, that's what we're waiting on. Is there any more on this topic?
I will just update everybody about funding. If I get a no from my potential source, I'll let you know that, so you're not left hanging, and I will look at anything.
Excellent.
There's Marla.
Good timing.
Perfect timing.
Knows how to make an entrance.
Hey, Marlo. You are muted in case you're trying to speak.
Also invisible.
Getting closer.
Hi there.
There you are. Now we can see you.
Sorry.
I'm just gonna
I'm
make a
late.
quick response to Bram. Hi, Bram. The public comment starts in about half hour or so. Marla, welcome. If you could just do your introduction and then you're up for got 20 minutes for your updates.
Okay, Marla Warner, DPW Director. Sorry I'm late. I needed some food for very good reasons. Shot home. I apologize for being late. So I'm going to give a quick update on the Swiffer grant, solid waste. Our recycling grant that we received $2.05 million for going to single stream automated recycling collection. And a quick update on our sludge press that we're installing at the wastewater treatment plant, as we call it, the dewatering project. So Swiffer grant, we've received the new truck, the trailer, and the 3 recycle trucks are happily in Canada getting their new recycling bodies put on them. So things are a little ahead of schedule. We plan on possibly instituting the program first, second week of July. Don't hold me to it. It all depends on everything coming together. We've completely rewritten the solid waste ordinance that is supposed to go to city council or committee chairs first. Then it'll be assigned to A&O and hopefully on to city council so that it can come in line with the new program. The trash pieces of it was rewritten also since we were there. They're pretty outdated from 2011. So everything seems to be breezing along, if you will. We've spent approximately $1.4 million out of the 2.05. I'm happy to report that we actually got reimbursement this morning for that, which is very good news with all the canceled and federal programs put on hold. So the dewatering project, unless you have any questions on the Swiffer update, I'll move on to the dewatering project.
Any questions?
I'm on A&O, so I'll see more of the legislation later. So I will restrain myself for now.
Okay, so the dewatering project commenced, approximately 2.5, 3 months ago down at the treatment plant, our wastewater treatment plant on Deerfield Street. It needed quite a bit of demo for some old coils and some other things that we used to process the sludge, if you will, with that were actually went obsolete in 1984. So all the demo work is done. There was an outside attached building that's been demoed where we're going to have a enclosed trailer area for the cake, if you will, or the pressed sludge that will go into a roll off. It's going to be completely sealed for and some different things in there so that there isn't let's say odors in the air throughout the whole area down there. So the project's moving on. We bumped into a couple of things when we started digging around the plant. We bumped into some stuff that you always bump into on these old buildings and old projects, but we've gotten through those pieces, and as of now we're on target. The project's moving along. The only holdup is we were hoping that we'd be done with this project midsummer, potentially early fall. And I think Carol can relate to this from the other building projects where it's an unknown on the switch gear and the electrical pieces that has slowed some projects down. So we're hoping by early to mid fall we'll be up and running on that project.
Comments, questions? Please.
One of the things that just came to mind when you're talking about the wastewater treatment plant, we were talking about resiliency. And I remember it flooded, was it last year? wastewater treatment plant got flooded by the Deerfield River.
A bunch of years ago.
Was it a bunch of years ago?
That was a long time ago.
Well, in any case, is there anything being done in this kind of working around the plants to help mitigate some of that? Or would it require, I don't know, more concrete to help prevent, the 100-year flood that comes every 25 years from going into the, causing issues, basically?
Right, so the severe flood was in 2011 with Irene.
Okay.
We did not have flood doors, as we know, well, most of us, if you've ever seen the building, sits up pretty high on
Does it?
a good set of stairs. But Irene flooded to the point where it went through the front doors and a lot of records were lost and the plant went down for a couple of days. And the crews did a great job of getting it up and running. The most recent flood, I believe, was last year. It basically flooded the parking lot. There was no impact on the building. But since then, we've taken some protective measures to protect that plant. We purchase actual flood doors. When we're expecting floods, we install them. That prevents it, at least on the bottom floor, to prevent it from flooding because all the equipment is downstairs in what we would call the basement. So it prevents us from losing all our pumps, electrical, and all that good stuff. So,
Awesome. Good
yep.
to hear.
Other questions or comments? Marla,
Is there
please.
plenty of time left?
Yes.
I actually have a question for you that but it's not related to this, but I had written down on my notes a few months ago, but this is about the DPW staff. I was wondering if they are required to take some training. For instance, the Department of Transportation provides training on working with rivers. And I don't know I was just curious in Greenfield if your staff ever took those trainings, those classes.
I'm not sure. Could you describe a little better what you mean by dealing with rivers?
So it's whenever there is work to be done in or next to a river, DOT has a whole training program. I think it's 3 different classes to teach how to do it, environmentally properly.
Yeah, so that's we haven't taken the actual DOT trainings, potentially in the engineering department they have. But we go through the local conservation with everything and Mass DEP. And then like concerning the swim area, we have a yearly maintenance of what we can and what we can't do. But like when we have a problem, an erosion problem that has to go through the process of permitting and NOI and all that good stuff, we're well versed in that just through the code and through our local boards.
That answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Comments or questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Marla. Was there anything else you wanted to share about while you have the floor?
No, I apologize for being late. Just it's been a go of it the last month, let's just say. So
Such a nice way to say it.
It's always something, right?
It's always something.
It's a great song.
It's a great slogan. I'm so into
Yeah,
it.
and, administratively, this time of year, we're at our busiest. You would think it's winter or whatnot, but this is when we get bids out. This is when we put the projects together. Obviously, budget season, capital season. So we're pretty much in high gear right now administratively.
Hannah was joking earlier that the slogan for Greenfield should be "It's always something," and I think the DPW could use that as well.
Wouldn't it be so good? Wouldn't you wear that sweatshirt?
Can I update that, George? It's always a couple of things.
Yeah, I have a question. Recently, FERCog updated their pollinator action plan. And I guess they've had grants for over how many years, I forget, but they've done a number of different communities, right? But they have a a sort of an umbrella plan that encompasses all the different town plans. And there's it was just published, I'm gonna say last month, or maybe even this month. And there's some guidance now in that has to do with roadside mowing and pollinators and stuff. And so I'd love to talk with you or the right person and during Greenfield's little pollinator group. But I've been thinking about trying to meet with you guys to talk about that new guidance and stuff. Would that be, we should just reach out to you? Is that what we should do? Or
Yeah, that'd be great. We could set something up.
okay, great.
Yep.
I'll send you an email about that.
Great.
Well, I'll call on myself, with regard to the two, topics you were, updating about. What would be a way to, characterize the impact of those, in relation to the sustainable master plan? Just thinking if we're trying to describe to someone who hasn't been involved in this stuff, what, why this matters and how it will help.
So the wastewater treatment plant dewatering project, AKA the sludge press. And I think I've mentioned this before, but for new members, I'm going to be over 850,000 this year to haul sludge out of our treatment plant to Lowell, 9,000 gallons per trailer load. And we do up to 5, possibly 6 loads a week. So the impact on the environment, as far as diesel fuel travel and all that's a piece of it. And not only that, that kind of cost is unsustainable to our sewer enterprise fund. So what this press does is the loads that are going to Lowell now are about 85 to 90% water. So we're paying to get rid of water.
Yep.
It has to be it can't be over a certain thickness, if you will, because the equipment out at Lowell cannot do what it's supposed to do without burning up their equipment out there. So we have to water it down. In other words, we have a lot of solids in our sludge. So this press will press the water out of it and eliminate it down to potentially 1, maybe 2 roll-offs at the most per week for disposal. And it's a funny name for it. We call it cake in the industry, but it's pressed down and all the water removed. So you can probably see the cost savings of not running 5 to 6 loads per week out to Lowell when we're running 1 or 2 roll-offs of the cake. Now, the bigger vision is eventually PFAS has come into the picture for many communities. I'm happy to report that our drinking water and our wastewater at this point is non-detect or well below a level that's being put out by EPA and DEP. So the second piece of this project down the road would be put a what we call a dryer in and take that cake and actually pelletize it into fertilizer. So that's the other piece. You can't do that if you got a PFAS problem. So I think some of you on the committee have heard this before, but that's the end game down the road. So an example is in 2016, we were paying 146,000 for sludge disposal. And like I said, we're going to be up around 850,000 this year for trucking, hauling, and disposal.
And what is PFAS? Could you?
If I was to pronounce it, I would confuse everybody, but there's technically like 8 compounds. They're what they call forever chemicals. You find them in the old popcorn bags, microwave popcorn bags, Teflon on pans, so on and so forth. It gets into the waste stream. Or years ago, they used a firefighting foam. Westfield, you may have seen in the papers, practicing with this firefighting foam was loaded with PFAS, and it's in their drinking water. So
Right over their drinking water.
yeah, and it's extremely, extremely expensive to filter or to treat. So
And you can't get rid of it.
yeah, it excuse me, that's why they call it the forever chemical.
Yep.
Yeah.
DuPont's a
Wow.
big name of manufacturer of that. So,
And the sludge that was used by farmers,
Right.
where they would get the sludge for free from like Boston is completely polluted and now it's polluted the fields.
Yeah.
I have an
yeah, yeah, Vermont's ran into that. I've read a
Right.
couple articles on that where they were spreading the cake, if you will, or they were pelletizing, drying and spreading it on all the fields. And it's now discovered that they had quite a bit of PFAS in their sludge. So
Nightmare.
knock on wood, that kind of put the hold on the anaerobic digester back in the day where this project started. Because of all the testing and the PFAS, we wouldn't want other sludge coming into our digester from other communities, especially we'd be stuck with the PFAS and treating it. So it morphed into this sludge press.
Thank you very much for putting that all in context. That's really helpful. Well,
You're welcome.
last question. Sure.
I have several questions. But
Last couple.
so where you're squishing out the poop, then you have water. Where is that water going? Is that then able to be processed and go into the river?
The water we press out of the sludge gets circulated back through the plant and treated.
Okay,
In other words, all that water is put back into the system. And as we know, we have to meet certain requirements to discharge out into the river. In other words, bacteria free and all those good things. So that actually gets circulated back through the plant, chlorinated and treated.
okay, thank you. And
You're
then if you don't do anything with the cake, you would have to just pay to dispose of it, right? Not some type of facility, but it's not a toxic waste facility, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my last question, which you've heard me, I'm a broken record, but I just would love to have the specs to know what the energy consumption is of the equipment. Because it's key to know.
I'll note that,
we can
Carol.
do
I
that offline.
apologize. I think I owed you that. And like I said, it fell off the radar. I apologize. I can look through the actual scope and everything that was engineered and designed for you and send that to you.
That'd be awesome. Or even the proposal I can look through.
Okay.
Glad things are moving on.
Well, that brings up another question. You asked about the cake and how it's disposed or what you do with it. Where would it go?
Well, we gotta get a contract going with a hauler and where it goes. Generally, it goes to a cap landfill, especially we're PFAS free. But again, the end game is, I was hoping that it'd be really cool to have fertilizer to use in the community with no chemicals or heavy metals in it on the end game down the road. So we haven't gotten that far yet is the answer. We just haven't we got to get a little further on in the project to get a hauler and where it's going. I mean, it could be as far as northern New Hampshire. It could be eastern New York. There's different areas. It all depends. We got to follow the procurement process on that.
Did you have your hand this?
I did, yeah, it's a tangentially related question again, but I remember reading somewhere that the CPA is gonna be looking at, Community Preservation Committee is gonna be looking at a gray water system potentially for that development that might be being.
Stone Ridge or something.
Snowy.
And I frankly don't really know what a gray water system is, and if it's something that's useful, is it something that can be applied more widely? It just, does this play nicely with your systems, I guess is what I'm asking, this potential project? Seems like Carol knows also.
So it was a good question. I happened to meet with the developer today. I had a meeting this afternoon. That's why I was running a little late. So good question. A gray water system was not mentioned. A pump station was talked about in a force main system up the hill to connect into our sewer system. So we talk about that because they want to avoid septic systems, a very large septic system for that development near the river. So at the end of the day, DEP and EPA would like to see all septic systems go away and pipe to a treatment plant. But so we're in the beginning phases with discussions with the developer on that. So But a gray water system was not brought up today. They still have to, unless they're putting a septic in and then have massive tanks pumped out as far as the solids, everything will come to our system. It would be gray water and the wastewater.
Are they trying to use composting toilets?
I think that might be what it is.
Because that's the black water. Gray water is like washing your hands, showering.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
That
they were
wasn't
doing
brought
gray
up.
water, but only on a small portion of the development and the rest was gonna be put back in the city, so.
Let me check with Hannah. We're a couple minutes over, Hannah, and supposed to go on to presentation by Resilient Greenfield. So I want to know if we want to wrap it up to move on or the last question. Last question. please.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the gray water question because they have applied for some money from the CPC and that's coming up tonight.
Mm,
Right, in a half an hour.
Yeah. So anyway,
do
obviously.
they have like a
So
wetland scientist working?
we'll hear a little bit more about it from the guy who's asking for the money. I guess that's where I'll have to leave it at the moment.
Yeah.
10 seconds. Sorry. I would just say that when I was doing the anaerobic digester study, when Marlo was in Hadley, we did explore, I'm a huge fan of gray water and you can do them in northern climates and New Hampshire allows it by law. It's way more complicated and the scale is huge. We're what, 3 to 5 million gallons a day or something? Versus a house, which is what, 35 gallons a day or something like that per person. So, but did do some exploring and there is Ashfield and they've done some great stuff. But again, I think I don't see that as a viable option. And I try to make impossible things happen all the time. So say again?
That particular development, you don't see it as a viable.
Oh, no, I thought you meant for the wastewater treatment
Oh,
plant.
no, I was not talking just about that development, but it makes sense that at scale, it might be difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, but someone needs to really know what they're doing and there's a lot of limitations. Doesn't work. If you don't, you have to use only certain types of soaps and there's anyway, I know we're over time and.
And I believe that getting impossible things done is in your job description.
Yeah.
So next we have a presentation by Resilient Greenfield. Is that Graham?
Actually,
No,
I put it on.
Okay, thank you. I
And-
did no name, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
Graham is there and he is Resilient Greenfield, but I was bringing it up because Resilient Greenfield is all about volunteers. And I was looking back at the recommendations that we recommended in, in those 2 chapters. And by the way, I couldn't find the tables. Does anybody know where those tables are that we were working from,
They're in the back.
Hey, MF.
Yes.
Since I have to go to this GCC gala, would it be possible for me to talk about the climate piece and then go and let you handle the volunteer piece after?
It's up to you. That's 2 separate things, but if that's
It's
okay,
your agenda.
that's fine with me.
Welcome, Brad. Do you want to introduce
Yeah.
yourself?
The climate piece for the public comment rather than for the agenda item, so.
Oh,
Yes.
I see. Gotcha. But you have to go how soon?
I'm supposed to be there at 5, so,
Oh, geez.
but
Okay,
but this is important, so,
sure. So you want to make a public comment?
thank you so much.
Please go ahead. Yep.
Yes, Resilient Greenfield is a little confusing because on the one hand, it's volunteering, on the other hand, it's climate resilience. So I'm speaking now from the climate resilience side. We're a climate crew hub through the Climate Crew program out of Better Future Project. And by taking that on, we have 2 jobs. One is to let the public know about the Emergency Operations Center. I'm meeting with Chief Strahan next week. And also talk with Chief Strahan about what are the things that the center is prepared to do that relate to potential climate emergencies we might foresee. And maybe there's some things he isn't thinking about. And maybe there's some coordination between what Greenfield does, what some of the agencies around do, and maybe what some of the mutual aid groups around do, just so that if a climate crisis happens, there can be enough of a response. I haven't been appointed to do this by anybody in Greenfield, so we're just going to offer to do what we can. But this is what the climate crew hubs throughout the country do. There's one in Northampton, for example. That's not what I want to talk about today, though. I will want to ask you guys about that at some other point. The other half of us is trying to get the public aware of the ways in which climate is predicted to and already impacting our region here, so that they can be educated about it, and then be in a position to respond when something happens because they knew that it might happen. I know that there's all the don't look up problems, but no, we have to start somewhere. A lot of people do know. When I talk to people, almost all of them are really hip to what's going on, but some people I talk to have no clue and have misinformation in their heads. We are having this open launch meeting on March 29th. The morning of that, from 10 o'clock to 12:30, is what MF is going to talk about. The afternoon from 12:30 to 3 is what I'm going to talk about. I want to invite at least one member of the SGIC to represent the SGIC in exactly what Carol spoke to earlier about the gap, whatever it happens to be, between the initial Sustainable Greenfield Master Plan, which didn't really get that climate informed, and what we're having to deal with now. If it could be Carol, that would be so fantastic, but I know she's insanely busy. What's going to go on is 12:30, the remainders of lunch will be eaten. There's going to be a turn to talk from the people who are there. I'm expecting between 40 and 60 people to just, ask one of a set of questions like, what does the climate crisis mean to you? Do you think it's already happening? Just, kind of like baseline things. And then I wanted to have some speakers. Chief Strahan will speak. Danny Botkin, who's in permaculture development, will speak. And I wanted somebody to represent Greenfield's municipality to say, here, look, we are already dealing with this. We're already spending money, taxpayer money and time on this. This is real. It is happening. It's appropriate for us to have ongoing teach-in / unconference education. And so now, and Nancy knows all about this because I've been talking to her about it. And we'd invited Green and Greenfield to speak, but they don't have the capacity for this day. So what would happen after this turn and talk and after a little intro is that one of our members, Pia, will introduce, oh no, she's doing the turn talk. Someone will introduce this set of speakers that I'm speaking about. They'll just say a little bit about, how climate crisis is real and informing their planning. Avi from Just Roots will speak, I think, about how that's changing farming and all that. That's going to happen for about a half hour, just people giving little 5 to 10 minute talks. And then we'll have Q&A for the next half hour. Then we'll have students from Four Rivers, Greenfield High School, Northfield, Mount Herman, and they're just going to be a little panel, and Greenfield Community College, and there'll be a panel where they'll just say something about how do they feel, how's it feel to them to be thinking about the climate in their future, and to allow the audience to ask them questions too. They're kind of going to be stand-ins for the little I'm scared that's going to be in everybody, and that isn't everybody who knows what's going on. And then at 2 o'clock, we're going to form different circles based on what people want to talk about. But one of the circles will be planning it'll be probably half a year in frequency, climate crisis teach-in or unconference, meaning that whoever comes to the thing says, I want to learn about this. And then we ask who can talk about that. And then based on the match, we then have a registration of therefore, who wants to go and hear this person talk about that. And then we go and deploy to the other rooms in Greenfield Community College or something like that, and have that conference. That's the model. So that's what we're up to in the afternoon. I don't know if during a public comment I can ask if anybody on the committee wants to respond and ask some questions of me. But Carol, I have emailed you about this before. You would be my fantasy pick. George, awesome. But Carol, man, I would just, be so happy. So does anybody have any questions about this before I get off and go to GCC for this gala?
Do you have a website?
We do, but See, the tricky thing is the people who are interested in the volunteering thing that MF is going to talk about aren't necessarily into the climate thing. And right now, the real difficult part is that we need to get enough both organizations that need volunteers and businesses that have employee volunteer programs up at the same time so that it actually kicks off. It's like an engine where, you need to have the air and you need to have the gas. So we didn't want to confuse things by putting a whole lot about the climate. I mean, you'll see a button where you can RSVP on the website, but that's pretty much it. Once we have this launch, we're going to separate the two things, but we wanted to have that mass of people in the room by the time we started the climate thing, because we want to reach people who aren't necessarily, or the choir who come to the thing that's going to be the next day over at St. James and Andrew, for example. We want to reach some other folks, and so maybe we can get them to stay with the turn and talk and whatever.
But is there a website you could tell us just so we could
Yes.
get the details that you just shared and so?
Yes,
Thanks.
if you go to resilientgreenfield.org,
Thank you.
and again, you won't get any details about the climate thing yet, but
Yep.
there's a button on resilientgreenfield.org called Community Site or News. I don't remember what it is lately. And that's where you'll see I've been all the local news articles about climate impacts in the area and a whole lot of other teaching stuff. That's going to be kind of like the curriculum plus whatever anybody else brings for the climate stuff. So you'll see how serious we are if you
Great.
click on that button. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have a quick question for Bram? Where he has to go? Yes, Carol.
I don't know, it's not a question, it's bad, no, I was trying to email you before 4 o'clock and I just couldn't, but I actually won't be around that weekend, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, sorry, but I figure I should say it here, because there's other fine folks. And good work.
Thank you. I
John,
mean,
you have a quick-
having somebody represent the committee would just be so excellent.
and we may talk about that after you leave, but John had a question? or-
I could have actually probably asked Nancy, but is this connected to Greenfield? Is this like an offshoot? This is a totally different organization.
Yeah.
I just saw the word Greenfield twice and I got confused, which is silly. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks
everybody.
very much, Bram.
Take
Take
care.
care. So
All
back
right, so
to,
back to the volunteer part, okay? So, yeah, so I was reading, I was asking where that link was. So if somebody has the link to I don't mean in the plan, I mean the ones we were working on
The
that have our
priorities and
comments.
such,
Huh?
the priorities and
You were
things.
sending those out, right, that we got in our agenda packets
Yeah,
at
and I
every
couldn't
meeting?
find it.
Well, I think it
Anywhere.
got,
They get full?
Mary was going to turn it into,
Yeah,
So
A
stories
storyboard.
are you
Right.
looking for the ones that we updated, the two
Yeah.
chapters?
yeah.
While you're talking, I'll see.
Yeah, meanwhile, I did find Mary's story map, which is quite complete, and I did find what I was looking for, which was the land use strategy 1.4. Engage volunteers to help with downtown maintenance and explore ways to make that program financially sustainable. So looking for funding for cleanup, but also organize a volunteer group that would help to clean up the downtown. At one point, before, maybe it didn't make it to the recommendations, but I even remember one wish was to someday hire a volunteer coordinator for the town, right?
yeah,
Okay.
Misty's been
So-
talking about that for
Right,
years.
so it hasn't happened, probably won't happen anytime soon, right? So then I got involved with Resilient Greenfield and I thought, well, okay, here is something we can actually do. So Resilient Greenfield is, as Bram mentioned, and I think he spoke with you guys last year already about this, maybe, before my time.
I don't recall it.
No,
No?
and it's very new.
He told me he came.
He came to a meeting
were-
once to ask questions, but I believe it was either before the forming of Resilient Greenfield or he was sort of coming just on his own to
Okay.
inquire
So
about
it's-
us.
It's a volunteer group itself, Resilient Greenfield. And the big part is about volunteers. It's creating or using a web-based platform called Give Pulse.
What again?
Give Pulse, and if, for us, it's greenfield.givepulse.
Give Pulse.
Yeah, GIVEPULSE.
Okay,
To get volunteers to sign up And then also to get organizations to sign up, organizations who need volunteers, and it's kind, he often calls it a dating service, you know, to match volunteers with opportunities, like an organization puts, they join up and they say, okay, we are organization so-and-so, and we need volunteers for this, this and that, or we have an event, and they're called events. And then when a volunteer goes on, they can see the whole list of things, and they can pick and choose if they want to volunteer. So, and at the March 29th event at GCC is going to be the big launch. Like right now, it's in its infancy. It's not really out there, you know. So business organizations are going to come, volunteers are going to come. They're going to be helped to join. It's not super easy, in my opinion, to sign up to this thing. I did it, but it's there's all these questions you can ignore, and if you look at them, it's like, what size T-shirt are you? So anyway, so because we said that the city would like to have volunteers, my idea was, well, what if the city signed up as somebody who's looking for volunteers? Now, the library has already done it, for instance. The library is already on. They've already have events. I mean, they're not, I don't think they're using it really, although it works because I signed up to log in my hours, but Stone Soup, you know, organizations like this. But as far as the town's concerned, the city, I mean, the library has already joined and have their own page. And I don't know that the town, the city is, maybe even if they're interested, they might not have anybody who has the time to do this. But I was thinking, well, what about SGIC doing it? And just let me finish this one thought, is that, so somebody has to put the events up. And I would be happy to be that person, you know, if people, you know, wanted to send me, oh, we have this, we would like volunteers, I could be the person who's administering the page. You know, that's just an idea I wanted to float by. Yes.
So, you said the library got involved and put up a page. Do you mean a page on the Resilient Greenfield.org website or on the library's own?
On the
website?
Give Pulse.
On
And
the
somehow they
Give
didn't go
Pulse,
through,
okay.
they didn't go through Resilient Greenfield, they did it on their own. But hopefully they will affiliate so that when you go to Greenfield, Resilient Greenfield, you will see, because we have like Stone Soup and some banks and I forget, maybe we're talking to the YMCA. So if people are volunteers with us or in Greenfield, they would see the whole list of opportunities. You know, you show
I
them.
have the list of, the library's not on here, but it might be just because they
they're
don't
not
have a
affiliated
current
with us
event.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the Give Pulse volunteer coordination thing
mhm.
is independent of Resilient Greenfield?
Yeah, Give Pulse is, I think, nationwide.
It's international because Brazil's
Even
coming up
international? Okay.
Hannah,
for this
Yeah,
code.
so Give Pulse is like its own platform that looks to sort of social media-ize volunteerism. And so you can set up not only your own page, but also your own networks. And Resilient Greenfield is looking to be sort of a hub Got it. of other organizations and groups in Greenfield so that they are helping everyone kind of organize around one another and be more in touch. Because the goal ultimately is that it creates all of these affiliations so that you can see who's volunteering where and talk about your experience and encourage other people to do it. And it becomes kind of like a social media-esque encouragement system.
Great.
So if everybody does it under one hub, then it's easier to kind of see each other. But if everybody signs up on all separate pages, it's harder to connect in. And so Resilient Greenfield is trying to kind of drive this hub within
Yeah.
Greenfield.
With the
Okay.
ultimate, I think the ultimate goal is to kind of strengthen our community, you know, and I think they want to have maybe quarterly events gathering everyone.
so we're about a time for this. I heard a couple asks. Bram was saying, would this committee want to designate someone to attend the plan?
That's kind of separate. That's the climate change thing, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, during his public comments, he threw that out there. I know we have a meeting 2 days prior to that. So we would potentially put that on the agenda and then see if someone, if we want to designate someone. And you were talking about us, this committee somehow being involved with the Give Pulse.
The town, yes, if the town is looking for volunteers, wouldn't it be a good idea if it was, yes?
Oh, I was just getting ready.
If it was one of the lists, in the listing.
Sure.
And as I said, I don't know who to talk to in town, but it feels like our committee is maybe the best. Out of it.
Yeah. I agree very much with the city getting involved. I don't know that we're the right entity only because I think it would necessitate us having someone who is going to be in that role long term. Because if you cycle off the committee, it would mean that SGIC would always have to have someone that was willing to be a volunteer coordinator, which is such a huge job. But I do think that getting city departments like the library, like the rec department, like the DPW, whoever is interested to join, could certainly be an SGIC effort. I mean, we could certainly help amplify and talk about Resilient Greenfield internally to different departments and encourage them to use the platform. I think that's a wonderful role for SGIC. I just don't know that we want to sort of house a volunteer coordinator if we don't know that that's something we're committing to in perpetuity.
In the interest of time, should we put this to revisit next agenda? Just
Sure.
You had asked about the Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
She sent it out for 25-24.
I just.
And I mean,
Oh, you did? Excellent.
Well.
All right, and I also need to get going because I gotta go pick up a kid. And,
Yes.
I was great working with you.
yes, it was a
Yes,
pleasure.
thank you,
I
John.
genuinely
Thank you.
am sad to leave this committee, but I also know I have less time than I used to.
Bring the baby.
Oh, wait, are you not gonna be here anymore?
No.
won't be the
His
city
baby
council
over us,
rep.
Carol.
Yeah.
I'll watch your baby while.
See?
Will you at least
You're gonna probably 90% likely get Sarah Brown. She's great. So you'll be in good hands.
Will you like pop in and just periodically hold the baby up and sort of like slow lion?
Honestly, like you guys are talking about the guy coming in and giving the speech. I'm like, oh, on the second, maybe I'll show up for that. It's like, so you will not get rid of me.
Very
but
good. Very good.
it was a pleasure and
Thank you so much.
It is a public meeting.
you.
yes, yes, very much.
And our department would babysit anytime you and Nick.
And that's a good
Yeah,
segue
ready to go.
into our next agenda item.
Thank you all so
Membership.
much.
Take care, John.
Bye.
Thank you.
Are you staying on the council?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay.
That's part of,
So I'll
he's
see
the
you
vice
in
president.
April.
Yeah, I got Shanghai to be vice president, so.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, it's more. But, bye, guys.
Bye, John.
So that one aspect of membership is clear. because
Yes.
There's gonna be
Right.
There
replacements
should
in the
be
council.
someone appointed, yes.
So we had talked last time about someone to fill Mary, it's going to see. So,
Yes.
you have this on here just to get an update, or some people were gonna potentially reach out?
I think there
Yeah.
were suggestions. And
Nancy?
Yeah, I had reached out actually to a number of people and then I had reached out to find out whether it's still vacant or whether.
My understanding is that it is.
Because I didn't want to keep working on what I was doing unless I knew the position was still open. So I've been specifically focusing on the idea of someone who is into food security.
Mhm.
And so I've reached out to the Franklin County Food Council, Just Roots, the guy that I know, Kyle Bostrom, who, whatever, and who else? Anyway, a couple other people. So far, I haven't found anybody. Like I found people, but they don't live in, or they, but I haven't given up. But that's why I wanted to know whether
Yeah.
it's still vacant before I keep.
As far as I know, it is. I've not heard otherwise. I will say that the mayor's office doesn't always inform us, but
Would you wanna check
yeah,
with the mayor's
Yeah.
office, just, that's
yeah.
probably a good idea, just to not
Thank you.
waste time, I guess.
Is that the only at-large position that's open?
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So if there's someone, a different topic or someone that you know that would be great for this committee, please.
It just seemed looking over the list of priorities in the charter or whatever, for the committee, that seemed like one that's not represented.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's big.
yeah,
Amy,
so,
Yes.
do you know if that question would be best addressed to Erin? Would she know?
I would start there. Yeah.
thank you. Ma'am. Any last thoughts on that? So we could all thinking and recruit, trying to recruit, and and
Okay.
send them to the mayor if they're interested,
Mhm.
and they do have to be a resident. Okay. Last item is announcements related to sustainability.
March 29, GCC, 10 AM this afternoon.
That was why I didn't catch all the times. That's why I wanted to check that website out. I assume it'll be on there. Good. All right. So next meeting is the 27th, Thursday, 2 days before that. And that's at GCC, you said? That event is at GCC?
But that's too bad, the 27th, I'm probably be, yeah, I'm taking a plane on 27th.
And there's no one else? Don't want to feel better?
I just have a question. I don't know why it's lighter at Marlowe's house than it is here.
Yeah.
You're just across the road, right? Look at that.
So interesting.
Got that open
Big wall.
space.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you guys on Zoom.